Well, I think we have a quorum, and while we're waiting for Senator Hammond to arrive, and Senator Harris is in a bill, she's presenting a bill right now, we will go ahead and get started, and hopefully they can join us. And we'll bring this, call this meeting of Senate Growth and Infrastructure to order, and will you please take the roll?
Senator Brooks,
Here.
Senator Hammond, Senator Pickard,
Here.
Senator Spearman, Chair Harris.
I believe we have Senator Spearman on the Zoom, and we can mark Chair Harris and Senator Hammond present when they arrive. All right, our first bill we're going to hear today is Assembly Bill 123, which revises the provisions governing special license plates indicating support for the Vegas Golden Knights hockey team. And we have Assemblywoman Howdigy here to present the bill. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Vice Chair Brooks and committee. Thank you. For the record, I'm Assemblywoman Sandra Howdigy, proudly representing Assembly District 41, and I am here with you today to present Assembly Bill 123. 9 days after the tragedy of 1 October 2017, the Vegas Golden Knights played their inaugural opening home game at T-Mobile Arena. The Golden Knights united our city, brought hope to our city, and provided an escape that helped us heal. Since then, the Vegas Golden Knights and their foundation have been loyal supporters of our first responders, donating $1 million to the Las Vegas Metro Police Department. But it didn't stop there. They have worked enthusiastically every day to inspire our community. The foundation works to secure the future of the Las Vegas military, first responders, and their families, especially those who have suffered a sacrifice for the greater good. The foundation has donated bikes to families in need during the holidays. They have hosted Thanksgiving food drives, built homes for local veterans, awarded grants to teachers to upgrade their virtual teaching technology. The foundation has established a grant program that gives $50,000 to 5 charities that fall within each of the foundation's giving pillars: health and wellness, education, military, hunger and homelessness, and youth. And these grants are awarded twice a year. They have supported over 150 charities and organizations, including 24 relating to first responders and veteran support, 14 dealing with hunger and homelessness, and 42 that strengthen education efforts. In all, they have donated close to $3 million to our community, including donating $1.2 million to those in need and affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. Assembly Bill 123 will allow the foundation to continue the good work they do in our community. Currently, the fees for the Vegas Golden Knights special license plate is $35 for the initial issuance and $10 for the renewal. There are no additional fees generated by the plate, which means that the Vegas Golden Knight Foundation does not receive any fees generated by the special license plates. Again, Vice Chair, I want to emphasize the foundation currently receives $0 from the fees that are collected from the license plates. As a matter of fact, if you look on the DMV's website, all charitable license plates show how much is collected and what portion goes to the chosen charity. There is only one organization not collecting fees, and that's the Vegas Golden Knights Foundation. And under them it states, quote, "This plate does not support a charitable cause," end quote, which is a little misleading. Assembly Bill 123 will add a $10 initial issuance fee and a $10 renewal fee to the plate so that those dollars collected can go to the foundation so that they can continue their good work. Vice Chair, today I'm joined by my primary co-sponsor, Assemblymember Yeager, and I would like him to give remarks, followed by Kim Frank, President of the Vegas Golden Knights Foundation, Community Relation and Player Programming. If that's okay.
Thank you, Assemblywoman Howdigy. Welcome, Assemblyman Yeager.
Good afternoon, Vice Chair Brooks, members of the Senate Growth and Infrastructure Committee. My name is Steve Yeager. I represent Assembly District 9 in Southwest Las Vegas, and it is a pleasure this afternoon to make brief remarks and provide some additional background and testimony in support of Assembly Bill 123. Anybody who knows me knows how much of a diehard Golden Knights fan I am. I grew up in Minnesota and Michigan, and hockey has been in my blood for a very long time. I enjoyed attending hockey games at both the University of Michigan and Cornell University. Although I don't have the skills to play hockey, I enjoy watching it and attending games at T-Mobile whenever I can. I used to be a fervent Detroit Red Wings fan, but my allegiance shifted when Vegas was fortunate enough to land the expansion Golden Knights in the 2017-2018 NHL season, and I think my closet is probably 85% Golden Knights gear at this point, maybe much to the chagrin of my wife, who would like me to maybe wear some normal clothing on occasion. The team continues to make Nevada proud by its play on the ice and its contributions to our community. When I attend games at T-Mobile, I tend to purchase tickets to the 51-49 raffle, where 51% goes to the winner and 49% goes to the Vegas Golden Knights Foundation. Now, I have never won, and I know my chances are very slim, but I also know the money goes to a good cause. With the pandemic, the revenue that goes to the foundation has really suffered because fans were not able to attend games for almost a year, and even now the stadium is not at full capacity, which means that the 51-49 raffle sales really have suffered. I view Assembly Bill 123 as a way to ensure the foundation remains healthy and can continue to do the good work in our community. The Golden Knights plate would still be one of the cheapest specialty plates out there, with only a $10 increase to support the foundation, whereas most of the other plates charge an additional $25. I think most who have or will obtain a Golden Knights plate would gladly pay an additional $10 on an annual basis to support the Golden Knights Foundation. I urge your support to ensure that the foundation remains healthy and can continue to do the good work it has done over the past few years. With your permission, Mr. Vice Chair, I'd love to hand it over to Mr. Siegel and Ms. Frank, who are with us on the Zoom. They represent the Vegas Golden Knights and can tell you a little bit more about the bill. And so thank you so much, Mr. Vice Chair, and go Knights go.
Thank you, Assemblyman Yeager. And so, Ms. Frank, Mr. Siegel, go right ahead in whichever order you prefer. Mr. Siegel, we cannot hear you. You might be on mute yet. We still cannot. And broadcast services, is it anything on our end?
Yeah, I was tested.
There you go. Now we can hear you.
Oh, okay, great.
All right, thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Siegel.
Okay, sir, thank you. First of all, thank you all so much for the opportunity to present this afternoon. I'm the Chip Siegel. For the record, it's S-E-I-G-E-L, and I'm the Chief Legal Officer of the Vegas Golden Knights. And no doubt the Vegas Golden Knights is one of the most popular organizations in Las Vegas. Right now, there are 51,000 license plates in the state of Nevada. This bill, which imposes an additional fee only on those who wish to support the Vegas Golden Knights Foundation, is a win-win-win-win for everyone involved. First, it's a win for the state, as it will potentially increase revenue for the general fund based on additional sales of the Vegas Golden Knights license plates. It's a win for the foundation, which needs funds after the devastating effects of the COVID pandemic. Just obliterated the funds, and this is a way in which we can replenish those funds. It's a win for the Vegas Golden Knights. As we gain popularity and become more popular, our name becomes more valuable, and therefore the extra exposure is very good for us. And finally, and certainly not least, it's great for the public. It's a big win. The foundation supports, as has been noted before, that it has community service is widespread. It supports everything from firefighters, first responders, to children's organizations. And therefore, as I said, it's a win-win-win-win for everyone involved. And right now, I'll turn it over to Kim, who can tell us a little bit more about the foundation. And again, thank you so much for the opportunity to present.
Thank you, Mr. Siegel. And Ms. Frank, go right ahead.
Yes, thank you. Kim Frank, the president of the Golden Knights Foundation. I want to thank you for having us today. And just to piggyback off of what Chip said, we have continuously been giving over $15 million to the community, and it hasn't stopped during COVID when we stopped being able to have events. Our owner, Bill Foley, donated his money to help us continue to give back to the community. If we were able to get these $10 for each license plate, it will help us grow programming, take care of immediate needs, such as whether it's food for children or for those that just need it here in Las Vegas. Our players are extremely passionate about giving back to this community. They feel the love on the ice and they love to give off the ice. And one of the other areas that we've been donating to since we started was Opportunity Village. We're also partnering with Boys and Girls Club and making over a $300,000 commitment to build a ball hockey rink in an underserved community, and our players will not only just help with building the ball hockey rink, they will participate in programming with local police officers as well to grow the game and show different ways to be successful in the community. So I don't need to repeat myself repeat what Chip had talked about, but there's so many opportunities that we love to give back, and with this we would be able to give back even more.
Thank you, Ms. Frank. And Assemblywoman Howdigy?
And with that, we'd be ready for questions, Chair, Vice Chair.
All right, and has Mr. Alonso got anything, or is he just here to answer questions? All right. Well, I'm going to channel the last senator from Senate District 3. Good bill, no questions. But I'm going to check in with my partner over here, Senator Pickard, first.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I didn't have any questions, actually, until what I thought was initially some political hyperbole when it was when Assemblywoman, you stated that we needed to make sure these guys continue. I had no idea we had. I'm sorry. I had no idea that we had such a downturn that affected the foundation the way it does. So it really is. It sounds like this may be a bit of an existential question as to whether or not they can continue without this, but it's a voluntary addition. So this is the kind of tax increase I can vote for because people don't have to do it if they don't want to. So I don't actually have any questions, Mr. Chair.
I am going to write that one down in the annals of the 81st
Red letter day.
The 81st legislative session. I appreciate the comments, though, Senator Pickard. And Chair Harris, do you have any questions on Senate Bill or Assembly Bill 123?
I do not. Just a comment. Go Knights.
Go Knights, go.
Senator Spearman, did you have any comments or questions?
Ditto.
Right on. Okay, well, I think that is everything, and we can close this hearing on Assembly Bill 123. And thank you for bringing it. Oh,
Thank you very much, everybody.
got a little ahead of myself. So excited about this Golden Knights license plate here. Do we have any testimony in the audience? Nope. Could you, broadcast services, could you please check the phones and see if we have anyone in support of Assembly Bill 123?
Thank you. Callers, if you would like to testify in support of Assembly Bill 123, please press star 9 now to enter the queue. Once again, callers, if you would like to testify in support of Assembly Bill 123, please press star 9 now to enter the queue. At this time, we have no callers indicating that they would like to testify in support of Assembly Bill 123.
Thank you. Could you check if we have anyone in opposition to Assembly Bill 123?
Certainly. Callers, if you would like to testify in opposition to Assembly Bill 123, please press star 9 now to enter the queue. Once again, if you'd like to testify in opposition to AB 123, please press star 9 now. Vice Chair Brooks, it appears that no callers are wishing to testify in opposition to the bill.
Thank you. Do we have anyone in the neutral position on Assembly Bill 123?
Callers, if you would like to testify in a neutral position for Assembly Bill 123, please press star 9 now. Chair Brooks, at this time, the public line is open and working. However, no callers would like to testify in a neutral position.
Thank you. So if you have any final comments, Assemblywoman Hadigi?
Just in the words of my colleague, Assemblyman Yeager, and the members of this committee, go Knights go. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So that brings Assembly Bill, the hearing on Assembly Bill 123 to a close, and I'll hand it back over to Chair Harris.
Thank you so much, Vice Chair Brooks. We'll open up the hearing on AB 444. Welcome to the committee.
Thank you for having me.
Go ahead and begin when you're ready.
Nice to be here in person. My name is David Goldwater, DavidGoldwater. I'm here on behalf of the company called Captain. We're presenting to you today AB 444. Madam Chair, we've discussed this bill, and there was, I had sent you an amendment. I don't think it substantially changed it. However, you had mentioned you were going to send it to the committee secretary. It's not on Nellis, but the gist of the bill it isn't changed with the amendment.
And Mr. Goldwater, it appears we've got the amendment being circulated amongst committee members right now.
Okay, very good. Madam Chair, the situation which brought about this bill was Captain is a large transportation company. Its CEO, Andrew Myers, will be testifying shortly. But we were presented with a challenge. Las Vegas is one of the premier destinations for travel and tourism, yet some of our transportation network companies are not able to offer its full cadre of services. Uber, for example, is unable to offer their Uber Black service, and in the future, potentially Uber Green, because of a prohibition in the law. The prohibition is that a regulated transportation company, a company with a certificate of public convenience, cannot have a driver who is not an employee, and an employee of a TNC cannot work for a certificated carrier. When presented with this, we realized we needed a statutory change. We worked with some senators, a very handsome senator, and also an assemblyman, and we finally got a committee introduction. The result is AB 444 removes that prohibition, and the amendment that is being circulated is simply some technical fixes that tries to make sure that was submitted from the transportation network company in order to make sure that the responsibilities that are required of the driver are not both required of the driver and the company and the TNC and the transportation network company. It just tries to establish one point for responsibility for things like collection of excise taxes, licensing, and the such. At this point, I'll introduce to you Mr. Andrew Myers, who is President and CEO of Captain, to give you a little bit of background on the company, on what they're trying to achieve in our area, in the business plan.
Goldwater. Chair Harris, Vice Chair Brooks, and the rest of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to testify today. For the record, my name is Andrew Myers, M-E-Y-E-R-S, President and CEO of Captain, K-A-P-T-Y-N. As Mr. Goldwater stated, Captain is a CPCN provider, limousine motor carrier, approved Nevada Transportation Authority provider in the state of Nevada. We're proud of that. We work with multiple other affiliates within the state as well to provide the best level of service for premium transportation for this great state and Southern Valley. We saw a few years ago a challenge in reviewing the regulatory statutes of the current market at the time. And that challenge was that we felt transportation network companies operating with independent contractor drivers and PPN limo motor carriers operating only with employee chauffeurs, that caused a gap in the ability to provide less vehicles and more efficiency, provide growing demand in the market. I believe that transportation network companies have brought an immense amount of technology, platform convenience, and consumer optionality, but that's also provided to a rise in some congestion and what we see as an opportunity to provide a solution. And that solution is to allow CPCN limo motor carriers with driver employees to accept and fulfill transportation network company demand, in short. So that is why we believe this bill is a problem-solving bill for multiple reasons. Number one, it allows companies like Captain and other CPCN limo motor carriers to employ more full-time drivers that have to go through rigorous background and ongoing management and security provisions. We're proud of that. We want to continue to do that as the employer. We feel there's an ample opportunity coming out of the pandemic to provide job creation through CPCN motor carrier status of employment, to provide these drivers with job security, accountability, with an opportunity to receive benefits and provide for their families. At the same time, we believe that this bill creates an opportunity, again, for efficiency on the roadway. That efficiency, in simple understanding, is one of our current vehicles, a Captain CPCN vehicle with a Captain fully employed chauffeur driver, could take a direct Captain charter reservation, fulfill that charter reservation from point A to point B. Upon drop-off of that charter reservation, we would like to see the opportunity for that vehicle and that driver to be available on a TNC platform. We believe that's going to aid in efficiency of vehicle utilization, commercial vehicle utilization on the roadways, as well as to provide additional income to these employees of the and limo motor carriers. We're not asking to prohibit anything around independent contractor status on the transportation network companies. We're just simply asking that AB 444 allows transportation network company demand to be received and fulfilled by CPCN limo motor carriers. We also, at Captain, are a company that believes in the future of sustainable vehicles in a sustainable environment. We are one of the few companies, not just in Nevada, but around the country, that have really made an effort in its core values and its mission to move away from internal combustion vehicles and into sustainable vehicles and electric vehicles. We'll see some of our vehicles already operating in the Southern Valley, fully electric. We go through the rigors of training our drivers on how to operate an electric vehicle, as well as making massive investments into the infrastructure at the utility level to ensure that we can move to a fully sustainable fleet platform. We're proud of that. So I thank you for your time today and open up to any questions and clarifications about what I've said.
Thank you so much. Are there any questions? Senator Pickard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I appreciate, sorry, this is a different mask and it's a lot heavier and I just can't talk through it. I appreciate the conversation that we had prior to the meeting. The one piece I just can't quite reconcile is how do we prevent the serving two masters? We've got a regulated carrier who's working also within a entirely separate regulatory scheme. And you gave me an explanation that I thought was okay, and then as I thought on it, I still can't quite make it fit. So I understand the drivers, are employees of the regulated, and right now under the rules, we can't have that cross connection. But what I don't see is how this bill allows the driver to work for the limousine company and still be able to work under the TNC paradigm. So can you explain the practical side of this? How does this work so that we don't have a driver or a company that is subject to two and potentially, maybe not currently, but potentially conflicting regulatory schemes?
I'm happy to, David Goldwater, I'm happy to take a shot at this, and then if Mr. Myers can sort of fill in the blanks where we got it from. So this bill sort of creates a new definition of driver, a new class, let's say. And I think it's less thinking about what the regulatory aspect is, and more think about it in terms of where the rides come from. So right now, in order to get a ride, you can call the company on the telephone. Right now, you can hang out in the porte-cochere, and perhaps the valet might refer you the certificated carrier at MGM or at any of the other hotels. And in this case, now a TNC can refer a ride into this certificated vehicle. And now under this new class, there are responsibilities for each party here. There has to be a contract between the company and the TNC, and there's a fee that's paid, and then there are responsibilities that are mainly under the certificated carrier for regulatory things such as collection of excise tax. Or in some cases, the TNC is required to collect that excise tax. In this particular case, it is. But that's the theory, and that's how it goes. Perhaps Mr. Myers might add some color.
Yeah, I'd love to. Thank you, Mr. Goldwater. Great question. In short, the driver is only subject to employment and management by the TCN carrier. The relationship that we have formed to date with the TNC, a current TNC carrier in the state of Nevada, the details of that relationship were that the TNC has amassed a large amount of consumer demand. They continue to specialize in marketing and onboarding and activation of consumer demand for the purposes of passenger or hire transport. Our side of the relationship that we specialize in recruitment, onboarding, management of full-time driver employees. We also specialize in the ability to work with the Nevada Transportation Authority on an ongoing basis, as well as account investigation, to ensure that our vehicles are properly regulated, are properly insured. And we have ongoing standard safety measures to ensure that there is safety possible on the vehicle transporting consumers. So at the end of the day, the question is answered by the fact that the driver is not fully employed or working for a CPCN motor carrier 1 hour and then working for the next trip hour. The driver is 100% of the time employed by a captain or another CPCN motor carrier, and all they're now able to do with 444 is receive a consumer demand that we will then fulfill in a highly insured CPCN vehicle and a 100% fully employed driver.
All right, I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but my concern is this. One thing that we've seen from the legislative standpoint is when, for example, we have different, and I'm going to use a family law example because that's my most recent experience, but we have child custody laws strewn across multiple sections of the statute. So if we're talking about paternity, that's under NRS 126. If we're talking about child custody and visitation, that's under 125C. If we're talking about support, that's 125B and 125. So we've got these different sections of law that theoretically the legislature keeps in line. We do it historically, we've done a pretty poor job of that. And so sometimes we build in conflicts. I can see this happening in a manifold way between two arguably competing regulatory bodies, where the Transportation Authority might come up with certain regulations that benefit and support their operation, where the TNCs may come up with a very different set. And so we're talking about taking someone that remains regulated under the Transportation Authority or the Taxi Cab Authority, whichever one it is. And then at the same time, they're now going to be subject to regulation under the TNCs. So unless we have two separate operations that can maintain that separation, my fear is that we run the risk of creating a beast that is serving two masters and thus serving neither well. I'm not suggesting I'm antagonistic to the bill. I'm just trying to think through this a permutation at a time. And my concern is that by opening this door without some pretty clear regulatory authority and designations, who's responsible for what, we may be opening this up to a real quagmire for the operator who's just trying to make a living.
Madam Chair, if I may maybe address Senator Pickett's concern, David Goldwater. TNCs are regulated by the same regulator that the certificated carriers are. So I think they understand the scope of these regulations. They understand how they interact, and there's also going to be a contract between the two companies. And I think what we tried to do in this bill, and I think the amendment from Uber sort of delineates it a little more clearly. But listen, it's not the first time there's been an imperfect bill, and I know that you, of all people, don't want the perfect to be an enemy of the good. This is definitely a step down the right path for improving the transportation situation in our valley, and if we have to come back here, hopefully we'll be before you to fix it, if there is such a thing. I doubt it, though.
And if I may, Mr. Goldwater, Andrew Myers for the record, I want to clarify that what Mr. Goldwater stated, that NRS 706 governs via the Nevada Transportation Authority all CPCN motor carriers, as well as all transportation network companies at 706A. So there is a clear regulation in place that is, the CPCN motor carrier and the transportation network companies are governed by the same authority, 706 for the CPCN carrier and 706A, the TNC. Again, in this bill, the 706A carrier only sends demands to the 706 carrier. 706 carrier with a commercially insured and vehicle, it's 100% driver employee fill that demand. So dispatchers by the government.
Any additional questions? I have one. Oh, Senator Spearman, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Madam Chair, and this is just for my pedestrian brain. I'm trying to get a handle on exactly what this would be. Is this kind of like a contract for a finder's fee? And that may be oversimplifying. I'm just trying to understand exactly what's going on since I'm not an attorney.
Thank you, Madam Chair. David Goldwater again. Hello, Senator Spearman. I hope you're well. No, the nature of this bill is so that the employees of a certificated carrier can accept rides from a transportation network company. So when you arrive, for example, if you're familiar with, let's just use one of the potential partners, Uber. If you're familiar in other cities with the concept of Uber Black, Uber Black's a little bit higher end than the current, what you're used to with Uber. It's a nice ride in let's say a Tesla, and that's what Mr. Myers, a big portion of his fleet at Captain are electric vehicles. So you could have an option to be able to say, okay, I'd love to be able to take a Uber Black. Maybe that's a fancier car, or in fact, maybe an Uber Green, an option where you could drive or get a ride in an electric vehicle or a sustainable vehicle. That option's not allowed today because you can't have an employee of a certificated carrier accept rides from TNCs. And that's basically what we're trying to do, Senator Spearman.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair.
So I have a question about the necessity for the bill. What is it that's currently in the NRS that prevents you from entering into these contracts and hammering out all the details about who's going to pay what currently?
I have a great answer for that. Unfortunately, I'm not prepared, but I know that the regulator would be able to tell you a little bit more. But on the TNC side, part of the statute says you can't be an employee and accept rides from the TNC. The statute says that. And on the company side, it says that if that employee cannot have other or outside employment and remain that status of a driver. So it's a little bit disjointed, but there is a clear prohibition from both the driver, the TNC side, and the relationship with the driver, and also on the certificated carrier side.
In practice, how would this work? So let's say I want to catch an Uber X or now a limousine through my Uber. Would I still be picked up on the second floor of the airport? Do you imagine there would have to be a separate pickup location for that? What would that look like?
If I may, Mr. Goldwater, I'd like to take this one. We are attempting in our relationship with our TNC provider, as well as in concert with the Department of Aviation, as well as the Las Vegas Convention Center and the major resorts that we currently have a contract in terms of on the Strip Boulevard, to work to assess more seamless and more elevated options for the convenience of the user. So, for example, let's use a resort property. There's many differing pickup locations at the current resort properties if you were to use a limousine service versus a TNC service, and really doesn't provide you any additional value if you were to choose a high-end TNC premier service. You don't currently get a unique or more favorable pickup location using that service. We believe that with the relationship with the TNC motor carrier that may have an existing current relationship with that property, that we would be able to use the preferred pickup location for more seamless convenience for the ultimately what we're trying to do with this bill, number one, is just allow trained, managed, professional, full-time chauffeurs to continue to deliver more safe and convenient and pleasurable ridership to the demand market. And we know that the TNC companies have worked hard to build their demand market. This is a bill that will bridge that gap. By bridging that gap, bill, an organic part of this is going to be that as this relationship grows, less vehicles will be needed to do more trips. And we believe that's a huge value in the current marketplace as we recover from the pandemic and we see airline traffic rise and the occupancy levels rise, which is great for the economy that we know we need here in the Valley, we're trying to get ahead of the opportunity that a big bloodline of the economy is making sure that our tourists, our locals, our convention goers, our soon-to-be Raiders fans and our current Knights fans are able to get seamlessly where they need to be on time and with a high level of security and convenience.
All right, thank you, Mr. Myers. I appreciate that. I don't think there are any additional questions, so we'll go ahead and turn it over to testimony if that concludes your presentation, Mr. Goldwater.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for the time.
You are very welcome. Doesn't look like there's anyone here in person to testify in support, so BPS, if you could please open it up to those on the phone line who'd like to testify in support of AB 444.
Thank you, Chair. Callers, if you would like to testify in support of Assembly Bill 444, please press star 9 now to enter the queue. Will the caller with the last 3 digits of 626 please state and spell your name for the record? You may begin.
Good afternoon, Chair Harris and members of the committee. For the record, Piper Overstreet, PIPER-OVERSTREET, on behalf of Uber Technologies, Inc. We are in support of AB 444, pending adoption of the proposed conceptual amendment, which was referenced earlier by Mr. Goldwater. The amendment is designed to offer clarity in terms of regulatory authority. This bill will allow customers the option to choose a premium electric vehicle via a TNC app, creating an enhanced customer experience, as well as providing a more environmentally conscious transportation option for TNC riders. This is why we are in support of AB 444, pending the consideration of the proposed amendment. Thank you for your time today.
If there are any additional callers who would like to testify in support of Assembly Bill 444, please press star 9 now to enter the queue. Chair Harris, at this time, there are no additional callers wishing to testify in support.
Okay, let's see if there's anyone who'd like to testify in opposition to AB 444.
Callers, if you would like to testify in opposition to AB 444, please press star 9 now to enter the queue. Once again, if you would like to testify in opposition, please press star 9 now to enter the queue. Chair Harris, at this time, the public line is open and working. However, there are no callers wishing to testify in opposition to the bill.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone who'd like to testify in the neutral position on AB 444?
Callers, if you would like to testify in the neutral position for AB 444, please press star 9 now to enter the queue. Once again, that is star 9 now to enter the queue for a neutral testimony on AB 444. Chair, at this time, there are no callers wishing to give a neutral testimony.
All right, thank you. We'll close out testimony, and I'll bring it back to you, Mr. Goldwater, if you'd like to make any closing comments. Okay, he has politely declined. I think that might be the first time in Ledge history. So we'll go ahead and close out the hearing on AB 444 and turn next to our last order of business, well, aside from public comment, which is a work session. I believe we have 3 bills on work session for today. They are, give me just one second. They are AB 54, AB 118, and AB 413. And I'll turn it over to Ms. Scully to walk us through AB 54.
Thank you, Chair Harris. For the record, Susan Scully with the Research Division of the Legislative Council Bureau. Assembly Bill 54, in its first reprint, creates the Advisory Committee on Traffic Safety within the Department of Transportation. This bill was introduced by the Department of Transportation and heard in this committee on April 28th. As I said, AB 54 creates the Advisory Committee on Traffic Safety, and they are to review, study, and make recommendations on evidence-based best practices for preventing and reducing deaths and injuries related to motor vehicle crashes, data on motor vehicle crashes resulting in death or serious injury, and policies intended to reduce these deaths and injuries, and any other matters which the director chooses to submit. The bill spells out the list of organizations who will be represented as voting members and also allows the NDOT director to appoint additional non-voting members as he or she sees fit. The appointees serve 2-year terms without compensation, and the committee shall meet at least quarterly. The bill also authorizes the committee to establish working groups, task forces, and similar entities as necessary, and requires it to submit an annual report on its work to the governor and the legislature. Thank you. That concludes my summary.
Thank you so much, Ms. Scully. Are there any questions on this bill from committee member Senator Pickard?
Hey, Madam Chair, I do recall there being some discussion about the committee itself. The point was made that the minority party is not given a seat on the committee except as a possibility under the catch-all other members. I was under the impression that there was going to be an amendment on that to make that clear. Am I to assume, since it says none on amendments, that that amendment was not made?
Senator Pickard, there have been no amendments submitted to the bill at this point.
All right, thank you.
And I do believe you're referring to Senator Hammond's comments during the committee hearing.
I couldn't remember who made the comments. I just remember thinking that that was an important change. So I'll be a no without that. Thank you.
All right, I'll just note for the record, if I'm thinking about the right bill, let me go to it very quickly. Let's see here. That the appointment is made by the majority leader does not suggest necessarily that it has to be a member of the majority party.
Madam Chair, I can't imagine in today's political environment that a majority leader of either party would suggest someone outside of their influence and control be on a committee. But it's customary when we're creating these committees to have the majority leader and the minority leader appoint someone, not necessarily equal in numbers. I'm not suggesting that. But where this would put one party, whichever party we're talking about, in total control of the committee, I think that's generally a bad idea. So I'll be a no without that amendment. Thank you.
Understood, Senator Pickard. I just wanted to make sure the record was clear that there is nothing prohibiting a member from the minority party being appointed. Any other questions, discussion on this bill? Senator Spearman.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Chair. So it's usually customary that even though the language may say the majority leader, excuse me, just like in all the other committees, in consultation with the minority leader is the one who puts forth the names of his or her party to serve. That's the way it was in 2015 when we were in the minority, and I believe for the most part that's the way it it has been since. I don't know of a committee that exists either now or that has existed in the last 4 sessions where both leaders, both majority and minority leaders, have not met in consultation to suggest the people from their party who would participate on the committee. And I struggled, I heard Senator Hammond say that, and I struggled trying to find some place in any other committee where the understood was delineated more than just the implication. So, I mean, I don't know of any time when that has not happened. So, and I don't know if Senator Hammond is here today. If he is, and he can perhaps explain to me what his reservation was, then I would understand a lot better. But as I remember it, I think he made the statement, and then I think that was all. So,
Senator Hammond.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And my hesitation really was the fact that I've been seeing more and more legislation coming out where this is not an interim committee necessarily, where you do make, suggestions, and the minority party makes some, they appoint people from the minority party, and the majority party chooses and places people on the committees from the majority party. This is an advisory committee. It spells out exactly who they want to be on the committee, making sure they have expertise in certain areas. And then on top of that, then the majority party gets to make a recommendation for an appointment or appointee. And in the past, we have seen that both majority and minority parties have made appointments to these kinds of committees. These aren't the regular legislative committees. And like our colleague down the other end, Senator Pickard, had mentioned, sometimes it's 2 people from the majority party, 1 person from the minority. And there's not really an advantage. What it does by having an appointment from the other party is that you have somebody then, a contact that you can make about what's going on, what happened during that committee. And it just seems to be able to increase the flow of communication between those who participate and then those who, are elected officials, so to speak. And so that was my hesitation, that this is the second bill that I've encountered during this session. And I think other people have noted other bills that they've encountered in their committees that, again, seem to say, hey, we like to have a smaller committee, which is understandable. We don't like to have large committees. But in order to do the smaller committee, it just seems like the minority party is being, taken out of the equation. And I was just saying, I think we need to try and reverse that. And that was my point.
Senator Brooks.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It also says that it has to be a member of the Standing Committee on Growth and Infrastructure. So if you want, I'll put in a good word for you.
I would love that, Senator Brooks. That's the second time you've tried to get me on this. The second time. I'm just trying to make a point.
Senator Pickard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In 2017, I created, or my bill, AB 278, created the Child Support Commission, or committee. And we were very careful to make sure that we put majority and minority appointments in there for this very reason. While I may be able to trust Senator Spearman to make an appointment that would include a minority party member, I certainly am not going to speak for any of her successors or any of our successors on the Republican side or whichever majority party, whichever might take the majority. But I think it's important for us to make sure that we make it clear through our language that we intend to include a minority view. And this bill does not do that. And so I think that we're deviating from custom in that we don't specify the minority party. And given the proclivities of this session, I feel pretty strongly that without that amendment, I just can't support the bill. Thank you.
Any further discussion? All right, I will accept a motion to do pass.
I move do pass.
Moved by Senator Brooks. We've got a second from Senator Spearman. Any discussion on the motion?
if I could.
Senator Hammond.
And I'll reserve my right. I'll vote no for now, but I'll consider it a little bit longer as well and see what happens.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. And that is Senator Pickard and Senator Hammond for the record. I believe Senator Hammond with reservations. All right, and the motion passes. I will give the floor statement to Senator Spearman. Thank you so much. Let's go ahead and move on to AB 118. I'll turn it over to you, Ms. Scully, to walk us through that bill.
Thank you, Chair Harris. For the record, Susan Scully of the Research Division of the Legislative Council Bureau. Assembly Bill 118 in its second reprint revises provisions relating to transportation of children in motor vehicles, sponsored by Assemblywoman Bilbray Axelrod and others, heard in this committee on April 26th. This bill expands the use of child restraints for children transported in motor vehicles. It removes the weight requirement for children under 6 and includes children less than 57 inches tall be secured in child restraint systems instead. It also requires that a child less than 2 years of age generally be secured in a rear-facing child restraint system in the back seat of a car. Children less than 2 years of age must be secured in the rear-facing child restraint system unless any airbag on the passenger side of the front seat is deactivated and special health care needs of the child require the child to ride in the front seat, and there's a written statement signed by a physician certifying this, which is carried in the motor vehicle. Or 2, all the back seats are in use by other children who are less than 2 years of age. Or 3, the motor vehicle does not have back seats. The bill makes conforming changes to other sections of the NRS referencing child restraints and permits the Department of Public Safety to accept gift, grants, and donations from any source for the purchase or donation of child restraint systems for persons who are in financial needs. No amendments were proposed. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Scully. Any questions on AB 118? All right, at this time, I would accept a motion to do pass.
Move to
So
pass?
moved. So moved.
We got a motion from Senator Brooks, a second from Senator Spearman. Any discussion on the motion? Senator Hammond.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate the opportunity to make at least a statement on this before we vote. I understand the sponsor's desire to protect the life and of children, young children. I really do. I think she's got a good heart, and I see that she's done a lot of work to try and get this bill where it needs to be. I do appreciate the 57 inches because I think that when you manufacture a car, when you design it, there's the design that has to be involved in that decision making. But there's some of the other parts of the bill I still struggle with. I think that sometimes we're taking away decision making from parents and from others, and so. And just because of that other part, I'm just kind of worried about going down that path and going down too far. We're starting to take away more and more decision making away from parents. So I'm just today I'm going to have to be a no. But I do, like I said, I understand where she's trying to get to, and I do understand the 57 inches. That's not a bad thing. Thank you.
Senator Pickard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I won't repeat, but I agree with what Senator Hammond said. And I think the thing that kind of put me over the edge on this was when the co-presenter suggested that kids could just, flop their legs over the sides and be cramped, and somehow that was okay. It just made me think of all the road trips I took with my kids in car seats, and that's just not a tenable argument. I think that we need to not be so quick to criminalize reasonable conduct, and by taking out the weight and kids are different sizes. That's just the reality. And when we take away parents' discretion and criminalize the behavior, I just think that's a little too far. But I agree with the Assemblywoman's intent. The 57 inches makes sense. I just can't take it all the way, so I'll be a no as well. Thank you.
Any further discussion? All right, seeing none, I'll accept a motion to do pass. Motion from Senator Spearman, second from Senator Brooks. Any discussion on the motion? Did we do that already? I feel like we did that already. Yeah, okay. No more discussion on the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. And for the record, that is Senator Pickard and Senator Hammond. Motion passes. I'll take the floor statement on that one. Ms. Scully, I'll turn it back over to you to walk us through AB 413.
Thank you, Chair Harris. For the record, Susan Scully with the Research Division of the Legislative Council Bureau. Assembly Bill 413 in its first reprint was sponsored by this committee, or the Assembly Committee on Growth and Infrastructure, on behalf of the Interim Legislative Committee on Energy. This bill requires Nevada's Department of Transportation to establish an advisory working group to study certain issues related to transportation during the 2021 and 2022 interim. The working group must consist of at least 20, but not more than 30 persons, including the chairs of the Assembly and Senate Standing Committees on Growth and Infrastructure, with the additional members appointed by the department representing a wide variety of interests and groups. Topics to be studied include transportation equity, reduction of greenhouse gas emissions, and the sustainability of the State Highway Fund. The department must submit a written report with the findings and recommendations of the working group no later than December 1, 2022, for transmittal to the 2023 Nevada Legislature. There were no amendments proposed. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Scully. Any discussion? Senator Brooks.
Yes, thank you. I know that there were some comments that were made in the committee hearing on this bill about inclusion of other industries or other representatives, and I was fully supportive of that. And I just want to, reiterate that it's a minimum of 20, not more than 30, and it delineates some of those 20. But I think there's plenty of opportunities for other industries and other advocates to be involved in the conversation. And so I feel very comfortable with moving forward with this, even in light of some of the comments that were made at the committee hearing, which I agree with. And but I'm very supportive of this with that 30 folks that are able to be on.
Thank you, Senator Brooks. And I'll note that it is 10 out of the possible 30 that are delineated. Senator Pickard.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I don't want to necessarily break a streak here, but I am going to support this, if only because the other participants in the committee that are not delineated, they said at the hearing that they are fully engaged and intend to be so. So I trust that their ability to interject will be enough. So I will be supporting this bill.
Thank you. Senator Spearman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I intend to support the bill, and I'll go to something that happened this morning in Commerce and Labor. I think it was Senate Bill 207, and we had Barry Gold to come on and talk about the importance of making sure that we're looking at the needs of the growing silver-haired population here in Nevada. Also heard, also heard from Disabled American Veterans and heard from the United Veterans Legislative Council as well. So 10 are delineated, and I'm sure we'll consider the rest of those. And the equity piece is really what I'm in strong support of, because right now many of the areas where we have either mass or public transportation, or it's emerging or whatever, sometimes there's not a lot of thought given to those communities, not just in terms how to serve them, but also in terms of pollution or whatever else may come close to their area. So I think the equity piece is a strong one, and I think it makes a strong statement in terms of us leaning forward and really moving towards equality and equity.
Thank you so much, Senator Spearman. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll accept a motion to do pass.
And move to pass.
And do we have a second? Second from Senator Spearman. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion passes unanimously. I will give the floor statement to Senator Brooks. All right, that will conclude the work session for today. I'll turn it over to our capable broadcast services to see if there's anyone on the line who'd like to participate in public comment. BPS, can we poll the line, see if there's anyone who'd like to participate in public comment at this time?
My apologies, Chair. I had some technical difficulties. Callers, if you would like to make public comment at this time, please press star 9 now to enter the queue. Chair Harris, at this time, no callers have indicated that they would like to give public comment.
All right, with that, we will go ahead and wrap up our business for the day. Thank you all so much for being here and for participating. We will have our next meeting on Wednesday, May 5th at 3:30 p.m. Until then, we are adjourned.